sitting there.
Aye. That's not what you should go by. You might still sit there.
I'm trying to figure out how that's what it's
Five.
Call the meeting to order. Got 6 minutes after 1 p.m. And we're going to go through our agenda real quick. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this month to the Humboldt Park Library. Let's see, let's go ahead and get roll call out of the way, and I've got a couple of caveats I want to mention before we get to public comment. So, Councilor Vargas is excused absence. Councilor Orlikoff.
Here.
And I am Councilor Laurent, for those unaware. And we do have a quorum, so we can continue with our meeting. Okay, next item on our agenda is going to be public comment. A couple of key notes that I'd like to point out. Going to go use 20 minutes of time, giving each speaker 2 minutes each. We're going to exercise decorum and no personal attacks. My colleague, Councilor Orlikoff, is going to help us keep track of the minutes. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. No personal attacks. 2 minutes per speaker. Bear in mind, we're going to kind of close the loop on how we run our meetings in the past. So when we get past the public comment, unless you're directly addressed by a member of the council here, we're going to ask that you keep your crosstalk comments and things like that to yourself. If there's something of interest that you'd like to speak with one of the councilors here present today, please do so after the meeting. I'll make myself available. I'm certain Councilor Orlikoff will do the same. Is everyone clear on that? All right. That being said, we're open for public comment. Yes.
It's not a comment really, but a question. The Rex Reed case, I thought that was exactly the type of case that this body was formed for, to investigate cases like that. The only thing, what I've learned about Rex Reed so far is that the investigation is being conducted by COPA and by the mayor's office. So can someone explain that? I mean, I doubt this is the place to do it, but I would like to know. And then the other question I have is, who are those people across the hall?
Okay.
I can address the first part in my committee update later.
Certainly. So there is a bullet item on our agenda to address the Dexter Reed item that you spoke of. The meeting across the hall is an external to this particular body. I would recommend that you seek out the people that organize that and talk with them. All right. Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment? Yes.
Hi, Chuck Tischhauser, resident. The Oath Keepers report about the BIA investigation. So in the report, we learned that the FOP7 lawyer, is claiming that members, it's okay for members to join the Oath Keepers. The FOP7 lawyer also appears to not know how DHS works and why federal agencies do not list so-called domestic terrorist organizations. Instead, they talk about domestic extremist activities that are prohibited. FOP7's lawyer appears to be kind of giving cover to this group, and I just thought it should be on your agenda, because how are we going to enforce this new association order that your team, CCPSA, right, that you're part of, promoted, and the democratic process created that. So if we have a large entity within CPD, FOP7, advocating that the Oath Keepers are not a threat, what are we doing here? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other public comments?
Hi, see a lot of new faces. My name's Adam Burke, and I'm the chairman of a group of volunteers called the 14th District Community Committee for Public Safety and Policing Initiatives. We're going to change our name because it's kind of clunky. We aim to work cooperatively with the 14th District Council, our 4 alders, our other elected officials, and governmental employees to reduce crime in our community. So if anybody who's interested in that, gentleman asked a question. So I would be very happy to talk with you about that. Just to reinforce, we're just volunteer community members. There's no qualifications to join. You have to be a citizen or even a resident. You just be interested. And we just had a meeting, and at that meeting, we agreed to remind the district council that we submitted a series of topics intended to address crime in our community. They're not recommendations to implement, but they're topics to explore. And we're requesting that the district council acknowledge that submission and make a decision on whether they intend to look into them or not. And if anybody's interested in what those initiatives were, I do have a copy of them and I can go over them with you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment? Yes.
Yeah, one question, we have a police officer here today, could we get an introduction?
Oh, yes, Sergeant Aaron Lawson from the 14th District.
Great.
I'm the business liaison sergeant.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to, just point out that, the Dexter Reed shooting and killing was done basically 2 miles from this spot, a little over 2 miles. Now, driving down here today, it made me think, wow, that's so close to where we are and to our 14th district. And it really concerns me on so many levels. And I know we're gonna be talking about this later, but I really wanted to express, my concerns about pretextual traffic stops. I think I would really like to push that those be stopped in the 14th district. And I am also really concerned about tactical teams now. After that particular event, it seemed like, 5 people on a tactical team, not in uniform, who immediately got out and pulled guns on somebody for not wearing a seatbelt was really extreme. And I would like to have that explored for the 14th district also. I'd really like to get information about how our resources are allocated. How much of our resources, police resources, go to pretextual stops and to tactical teams? How many go to answer 911 calls? My understanding is the 911 calls are very low in terms of the manpower allocation, but I would like to hear that from the 14th district itself. I'd like to see a budget from the 14th district. I'd like to know why we only have PAPS meetings every other month instead of monthly like we used to. I've been told it's a budget issue. Well, let's see that budget and look at it and figure out why. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes, oh no, we don't have the budget for it. We can't do it. We can't solve these crimes. Oops, am I going over the 2 minutes?
Right about there, if you could wrap it up.
Okay, but I've got more questions.
Sure.
You get the idea of where I'm
Want
going.
these
Thank
two and
you.
I'll move?
Oh, we have more chairs also. Don't worry about making noises. People need to sit down. Sorry, Sally.
But that's okay.
All right, thank you for your comments, Ms. Hankin. Ms. Schmidt.
So I have prepared a written statement. Hello, my name is Allison Schmidt, that's SCHMIDT. Based on Impact for Equity's report on Chicago traffic stops and released last month, the data shows that pretextual traffic stops are disproportionately affecting Black and brown communities in Chicago. Black drivers are 6 times more likely to be pulled over in our city, with Latino drivers being twice as likely to be pulled over for a minor traffic violation. I strongly believe that pretextual stops lead to targeted harm and eroded trust between law enforcement and over-policed communities. CPD's continued focus on minor traffic violations diverts resources from addressing more pressing safety issues, such as responding to 911 calls, ultimately resulting in a waste of government resources and taxpayer dollars, and most tragically resulting in loss of life, as our city just recently witnessed with the killing of Dexter Reed by a CPD tactical team who shot at him 96 times, including after he had already surrendered. The CPD has the the CCPSA has the power to set policy for the CPD, meaning that they can act immediately to abolish pretextual traffic stops and dismantle CPD's use of tactical teams. I encouraged all 3 of our 14th district councilors to apply pressure on both the CCPSA and the CPD to end pretextual traffic stops and use of tactical teams. Councilor Orlikoff, thank you for your dedication and persistence in pushing this conversation forward. Councilor Rouen, I strongly urge that you do more than virtue signaling that you care about public safety, because your actions speak otherwise. We have repeatedly asked you as chair to arrange time for Commander Lenis of the 14th Police District to attend one of the meetings.
Thank you.
You
Your time is
failed
up.
to do
Your
so,
time is up.
and
Thank
that is
you.
concerning. Thank you.
I'm gonna make one more reminder, to limit the personal attacks. Do we have any other public comments?
That's not a personal.
Not at all.
I'm Fayani, I'm a member of the 14th District, and I'm speaking about the Dexter Reed incident, the murder of Dexter Reed. It was a pretextual traffic stop that they said he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, they couldn't even see in there. And so the CCPSA has policy-making power, and so I'm urging the district councilors to speak on behalf of the district and say that we are in support of ending pretextual traffic stops. And the other demand is ending the tactical teams. One of the officers involved in that was Thomas Spanos, a 23-year-old. Thomas ended up shooting at least 50 times, or thereabouts 40 or 50 times. And one of the requirements for people on the tactical team is to have 3 years of experience. Thomas Spanos only had 2 years of experience. And we know that the reason why Thomas Spanos was allowed on the tactical team was because his dad is on the force. And so whenever you start peeling back the details, it's crooked and it resulted in the loss of a life. And so I'm standing in support of ending the tactical teams and ending pretextual stops. And as my neighbor Sally has mentioned, this district engages in a lot of pretextual stops. This district pulls people over countlessly. I can't remember the corner in this very district. And meanwhile, a couple of blocks over, people complain about car break-ins. And so I'd also want to echo Sally's point about, we need to see where resources are being allocated in this district, because clearly they're not being allocated in the correct place. They're going to repression and not actually keeping people safe. So that's all.
Thank you for your comments. Just one moment. Yes, sir.
I'm Gil Jimenez, president of the 14th District for more than 50 years. I'd just like to remind my colleagues and friends and neighbors here that in the state of Illinois, you do not have the right to resist an unlawful arrest. So please tell your friends and your neighbors and family, don't pull guns on the police, you will get shot.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Do we have any other public comment? Last chance. Oh, we got one more. Wait.
I would just like to say that I echo my fellow neighbors' concerns about the pretextual traffic stops and the tactical teams. It's extremely concerning, and I would just like to throw my support behind what they say.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, one more time around. Any other public comments? Just about close to time on that anyway. Yes, sir.
Cliff Nellis, I didn't sign up, so I didn't know if I could, it looks like we're just raising hands.
Yep.
I think it's probably important to share that I'm here in my personal capacity as a resident on the west side of North Lawndale, even though I am the commissioner for the CCPSA. Well, I'm not sure if I still am because the permanent 7 have been appointed now. I want to add that I think one of the concerning elements to this, and came here today because I was hoping to see this presentation before I have to go pick up my daughter from dance. But one of the very concerning pieces of this is that 4 officers had guns pointed at Dexter within 17 seconds on at least what we can see from the video and from all reports is an alleged traffic stop. And I think really, we need to ask the question and answer the question and urge CCPSA, the agenda of which is currently being controlled mostly by the president of the CCPSA, as to what constitutes excessive force in a traffic stop, because all of that preceded what we don't even have as a confirmed Dexter shot first. There are no ballistic reports. I've watched the videos. There is some reason to believe that that happened, but whether it happened or not, I think there's a legitimate question that we have to wrestle with as to whether or not a civilian, a driver of an automobile, is in reasonable fear for their life when 4 people jump out of a car, an unmarked car, in plain clothes with head coverings, hats. All of them had hats. And brandish 4 guns at your face while trying to enter your car. Most everybody I've talked to on the west side said this is how you get your car jacked. And if you didn't know that they were police, there would be a concern that they could have been carjacked.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Nellis. All right, with that, we're going to close out the public comment section. We'll get into a little bit of housekeeping on our end. We've got 2 months of minutes that we are to vote on into the record. Well, first of which being March. Those were provided quite a while ago. Any objection to the minutes as they were submitted?
I have no objection with a caveat I'd just like to state quickly. Unfortunately, lost the recording that was on Facebook. Haven't been able to verify the minutes with the recording, but I have no edits at this time. I asked somebody if they agreed with their public comment or had any changes. I didn't get any changes prior to today, so I'm okay with submitting these minutes. And I've also, I believe I've corrected the issue I was having with Facebook until they change their internal structures again, and I'm surprised again. I should not have any issues with videos being deleted. Sorry about that.
So, no objections to the
March 2nd, approved.
All right, so being the fact that there's 2 of us, I can't motion or second, so we'll just go ahead and declare it by unanimous consent the March minutes have been approved. All right, moving on. April minutes. You have any minutes for April?
I don't have, no, I don't have minutes ready.
All right, present to you minutes from the April meeting of the 14th District Council held at the Logan Square Public Library for your review and consideration.
Thank you. I would like to wait to approve these when our co-counselor returns.
Okay, so we're going to defer these minutes to our June meeting. Yes, June meeting?
Thank you.
All right, so that being said, our April minutes are deferred to June when we have an absolute deadline for approval then. All right, that is out of the way. So we will go ahead and get into the district council updates. I'll let Council Orlikoff go ahead and present your updates.
Thank you. two governmental updates that I neglected to include in my newsletter. The OIG is seeking community input on their practices, what they should be focusing on, I guess, in the city. You could go to their website for more information. Also, COPA is having their COPA Community Academy starting up, so if you're interested in learning about that, you can go there. That segues, I guess, into a question that was asked earlier about why the CCPSA, the district councils, are not investigating the case with Dexter Reed. We have no what's the right jurisdiction to do that. The way that official complaints are received, they are all received by COPA, and then some of them remain with COPA and some go to the Bureau of Internal Affairs prior to there being some decisions rendered and then discipline decided by superintendent, police board, or actually now by private police arbitration if they choose to go that route. So we have no investigatory powers. We can, what is the case is that the CCPSA has hiring and firing rights over the executive director of COPA. So if you feel that COPA is failing in their duties, then there should be recourse. We also are able to set goals for COPA and the police department, and so we have oversight capacities for the investigatory system. Did that answer your question, sir?
Except I didn't catch that last sentence. Could you repeat that one?
So rather than performing investigations, which we have no authority to do so in an official capacity, we have some oversight capacity for those investigatory systems. So we have oversight over COPA. So if you're having an issue with COPA, you can tell us what that issue is.
Okay. Yeah, that does.
And then lastly on that, I guess, COPA, and what COPA is able to do is also determined largely by the city ordinance creating them, as well as the FOP contract determines a lot of what COPA currently does. Okay, and then is there a final update for me? The BIA association order was mentioned. I do not have much prepared on that because this is news that happened very recently, prior to our agenda being, after our agenda was set, etc. And a lot of things are going on. But a number of district councilors are very concerned with the results of this. WBEZ, I believe, did a FOIA request or just reached out to the police department saying it's past the 6-month deadline where you were going to have an update on this case, or these cases being 9 Chicago police officers believed to have been on the member lists for the Oath Keepers. Some admitted, some not so, but information obtained basically from databases. Anyway, they ruled not sustained in all instances about 2 days ago. CCPSA President Driver urged the police department to release all information pending the investigation. They did release their investigatory report, which mainly showed that they interviewed the people. As was mentioned, the FOP lawyer said that simply being a member of the Oath Keepers does not show anything, was essentially the contention. BIA requested the news station and also OIG to give them, to do investigation for them, and they both said they don't have jurisdiction to do that. They did not, however, reach out to ADL or SPLC, the groups that do actually do investigations and actually uncovered and provided this information. Nor did they, so they ruled unsustained largely, I guess, because they said they didn't find racist activity. They said just being a member doesn't prove it. However, the investigation doesn't show that they did much investigating into whether there was racist activity. Lastly, the context for the CCPSA passing this bias association order update relates again to COPA and everything. Because of the FOP contract, police officers are not able to be evaluated based on a pattern of behavior. That means if you have 37 complaints for racist abuse of power that was closed under IPRA before 2017, before we had our last round of police reform, none of that can be used. So we have all of these officers with $150,000 salaries and all the overtime who have decades and decades of history of abuse. So the city has already paid out, in many cases, millions and millions of dollars of settlements as a result of their actions. However, they cannot be held accountable or disciplined in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that now, even being a member of a group such as the Oath Keepers, this was supposed to be a catch-all. This was designed as a catch-all by the CCPSA in order to allow for action to be taken on officers known to be racist within the ranks, and BIA again failed. When this was passed, everybody said BIA could not have this authority, and now it's been proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that that is the case. BIA cannot be trusted with this jurisdiction, and it must immediately be removed from them. So that's where we stand on that. Thank you.
Thank you for your updates. A couple of items that I have. I do have the latest CompStat reports for both the 14th District and Area 5, which covers districts 14, 16, 17, and 25. A lot of which shows disturbing trends, but good trends as well. So I'll share that accordingly with those that request them from me directly. And also, I met with the Public Safety Group earlier, and they have asked that we discuss the capability of possibly looking into some of these initiatives that they gathered on our that for our consideration, and I'll share those with you when we get back into the discussion aspect. Also, it's been brought up to me by Mr. Banksness. I've got email interaction between himself and Ms. Washington from the OEMC that's willing to come out and provide a discussion on OEMC, the operations, how the data works, and everything like that. From what I understand, it's high value information, and I invite any dispute as to whether or not we should have them come in and provide a presentation with a Q&A follow.
Ask a quick question on that. Do you have a proposed date, or you're just suggesting that we schedule it?
Just schedule it, proposing that we schedule it at some time, that way I can reach out to Ms. Washington and hammer that date down.
That's the 9/11 call center. This woman is in charge of training for the 9/11 call center.
The OEMC, Office of Emergency Management and Communications, right, thank you.
It's not a regular
So, is that, no, just,
No, if you would like to pick a date instead of the meeting after next, would that be, so it's July?
July?
Would that be fine?
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong sheet. So July is the 6th at Logan Square Library. That works for me. I'll reach out to her and make certain that that date works for her as well. I'll give you an update on that communication in our June meeting. All right, as far as I'm concerned, that's all the updates that I have. Back to business at hand. Okay, we'll go into the discussions. Looks like you've got quite a number of items there, Councilor Roycott. I'll let you go ahead and tip it off.
I would like to just ask a quick question. So the order, I have the presentation after initial discussion about Dexter Reed. Do you, Mr. Nellis? Do you have time for an initial Dexter Reed discussion before the presentation, or I could try to do the presentation right now? You've got to go.
I can be here till about a little bit before 2.
Okay, we should be good. Thank you. So yes, we voted to, in our bylaws, create 3 standing agenda items broadly to hold different topics because we have a set purview, but then the things change from month to month. So in terms of police accountability, an issue that we heard from our constituents of great concern is related to the stop of Dexter Reed and what transpired at that event, being shot at 96 times and killed. There is a statement that was signed by 2 members of the 14th District Council, written by the 12th Police District. I can read that. However, one other thing to mention first, there was also a mention of ballistics reports, or the lack thereof. And I do think that is very important because it is not difficult to get a ballistics report, a gunpowder residue from someone's hand, or even the ballistics from their weapon, and everything involved. There is a case that I was intimately involved in that spanned decades of Howard Morgan, who was a gentleman who was convicted of attempted murder, but by all accounts that was impossible. He was actually shot 28 times, including in the back, and loaded into a body bag. His van set on fire, and he miraculously survived. He was a railroad cop who was trying to say that he had a gun, and they didn't take that well. So the crazy thing is, he didn't have gunpowder residue and was proven innocent of aggravated assault with his firearm. He was proven innocent of that in court, and then received a second trial for the murder charges, where the judge ruled that they could not use any evidence from the defense of the aggravated assault with the firearm. So he was argued in court. It was said that he shot at these 4 officers with no evidence, and they were not allowed to say he did not shoot his gun in response. It was absolutely absurd. This was legal lynching, worse than double jeopardy. So without a ballistics report, you absolutely should not, just believe hearsay, is one thing that I'll say. It's very sad. Yes, as people have mentioned, I won't read the whole thing, I guess, just the highlights, but it definitely plays into the pretextual stops. The reason given supposedly is stopping for a seatbelt. Whether or not that's true, we can see clearly the result of this is that it was not helping anyone's safety. You're creating a very tense situation that seems like a carjacking, ostensibly for someone's seatbelt. That's not a danger to anybody else. If anything, how are they protecting him or keeping him safe by shooting him 96 times over a seatbelt? So that's absurd. It's a waste of our resources. We hear all the time about concerns that people have and where they would like the police to be active, and there are problems that they're not able to do that because they're instead harassing people and creating liability for the city through racist harm. Something crazy that we learned later, something unacceptable I should say, is that these very officers had over 30 complaints for the same activity, for pretextual stops, including the month leading up to that for also supposedly pulling over someone with a seatbelt aggressively with brutality. Additionally, one highlight from the report I'm about to give, 95% of all use of force during traffic stops in all of Chicago is against people of color. 95% of all force throughout the city of Chicago during traffic stops is against people of color. And that is absolutely insane. That is unacceptable. All right. Is there anything you'd like to say about Dexter Reed?
Well, my comments on the Dexter Reed incident, I do agree that it's very tragic. Fortunately for us, it didn't happen in the 14th district, so it's a little bit outside of our purview, and I think that's the only shining factor that we can really focus on as far as that goes. But I think it'd be bereft if we didn't mention the mass shooting that took place in Brighton Park shortly after that. I think that was very tragic just as well, and I think that Officer Weska, who was gunned down on his way home from shift, that didn't happen in the 14th district as well, but I think we'd be bereft if we didn't talk about all criminal activities, no matter what side of the badge that they're on. So I just wanted to make certain that we address that as well in good faith.
There's more to say, but I'd like to, we have 2 other agenda points related, one on traffic stops and one on tactical teams, so this is a good segue into that. I'd like to begin with the presentation on traffic stops. I think it's working, and then do I just click through? All right, perfect. So the impact for equity policy experts have presented for us previously. We've talked about this a whole lot, and many district councilors are working on this. I believe it's currently the most popular policy issue, but just barely that we have. Anyway, they updated the data through the end of 2023, so accurate current present data, post Snelling's in statements. So this is an update to the report and additional information. So here we go. First, this is information that was very well recorded in the article, 911 calls on South and West Sides ignored while rapid response cops make traffic stops instead, by Pascal Sabino. At the time, this was published in Block Club, but Pascal is currently at Bolts Magazine. Yes?
Will you be publishing this so we can read it at our leisure?
It was in my newsletter. If I didn't get it to you, or if you haven't, can you email me?
In the email?
Can you check? And if you don't have it, let me know.
Oh no, that's fine. It's the same one.
I think I may have it, so if anybody needs it.
Anybody who needs it, yes, I'll give it to you. Should have been in the email, but let me know. So this might be a little hard to read. I'm not sure if I can. Oh, good. Okay, perfect. So by year, if we scoot ahead to 2013, there are 600 tactical units in Chicago, and this is their activity. They're spending only 10% of their time on 911 calls. When they were created, that was the reason that they said that they were created, was to respond specifically to the highest priority, most dangerous or violent situations, those calls about guns, shots, etc. So we can see that over time, they've actually spent less and less of their activity on primary concerns. That doesn't mean that 911 calls are not happening. What we're hearing, in fact, is that 911 calls are going unanswered and not responded to, and not in a quality manner. Apologies. There's also some information from the Office of Inspector General where she speaks on that point. It's not a resource shortage problem. Inspector General Deborah Witzberg says this is about resource allocation, and I think a lot of the comments today spoke to that as well. And so this is a quote from a police spokesman officially from the department. Instead, just one squad car per shift in each district is dedicated to 911 duties. That is a little difficult to grasp your head around. In terms of police whose technical duty is to respond to 911 calls, even the most serious ones, even the worst call you get on the radio, there is actually only one squad car per district at any time whose job is to answer that call. And I jumped on the calls when we had a shooting that I heard from my window on the police scanner, and there were multiple squad cars when asked to check in that were engaged in traffic stops. And they did not apprehend the offenders of that shooting that we had on North Avenue. And they were doing traffic stops instead. As we said, Dexter Reed was shot 96 times for a pretextual traffic stop, and they had over 30 complaints in that jump out squad about that. I'll move a little faster. So traffic stops. What is traffic stop? Well, you probably know what that is. There's three types: moving violations, equipment violations, and license and registration. So typically moving violations are going to be the more serious ones in terms of public safety concerns. What is a pretextual traffic stop? When an officer uses some violation of the traffic code as an excuse to pull someone over when their actual motivation is to look for something else. If they're trying to recover contraband, for instance, but they have no reason to suspect so, they're doing a stop for something else, they have nothing that they don't really care about. The reason that we know that they don't care about the stops they perform is because 97% don't result in an arrest and 99% don't result in any recovery of anything, or tickets as well. So if it was actually important to enforce these things, then they should be enforcing them. However, it's not a good use of our resources to have, officers with these salaries performing these activities. They're needed elsewhere. The four main points about this: one is that traffic stops they're the new stop and frisk. The very moment that traffic stops were banned in 2015, there were department memos. Oh, geez. Okay. Well. No, I just am bad at this. Oh no. Sorry. From beginning. Okay. Okay. So sorry about that. Traffic stops are the new stop and frisk. Stop and frisk was banned in 2015, and there are department memos showing that this is an intentional policy, if not an official policy. They increased 700%, and they're still up 600%, and they're increasing even now. CPD traffic stops do not make roadways safer. I personally have been hit by cars driving recklessly many times. I've heard from constituents who are concerned when we bring this up. They say they don't want racist enforcement, they don't want harm, but what about traffic safety? And the fact is, they agree, the current enforcement is not making our roadways safer. We've all experienced that. Furthermore, there are updates on that later, but the focus on actual speeding and reckless driving has decreased dramatically as they've adopted traffic stops as a policy for pretextual searching for contraband. It's explicitly a policy to look for contraband. They do not care about traffic safety or enforcement, and that is upsetting. It's not effective for fighting crime in any way as well. It has not worked to address the robberies that we've seen here. When I asked the commander if there was a single anecdote of a single pretextual traffic stop helping to address any robbery or ongoing concern, she could not provide one example of it working for anything as advertised, not one. And yet it's the number one policy that the police have. The number one policy that they have are these pretextual stops. Traffic stops are racially disparate and harmful to Black and Latino drivers. In the city, you're 6 times more likely to be stopped driving while Black and twice as likely to be stopped driving while Latino. They're highly concentrated, and the use of force is 97% against people of color. I already showed you the graph, but this is to the first point. This is right when stop and frisk is banned, and then these are the traffic stops increasing in vehicles tremendously. This is the type of stops. It used to be that over 80%, this is typical in other cities. Most of the traffic enforcement from police should be focused on safety concerns. There are plenty of research showing what has a safety outcome and what doesn't. registration, taillights, air freshener do not matter for safety, tinted windows, seatbelt. However, reckless driving, other things can have an impact, even lane usage. There's been a 180 shift. Instead of focusing on moving violations and potentially dangerous driving, there's been a total 180 to where equipment and registration violations are, it's all tied now, and those have actually pulled ahead. Instead of 80%, it's only 20% for moving. So yeah, registration was the biggest stop in 2023 by far. Headlights, taillights, license plates. Stop sign, 10% for stop sign. That could be dangerous in some situations, certainly turn signals as well. Light violations definitely could be dangerous. These are moving violations. But the number 1 and 2 categories are not moving violations. And then if you get to speeding and improper lane usage and cell phone usage and improper turning, which are the most dangerous categories, these are all under 1%. So that's why I've been hit by cars multiple times since they've adopted this policy.
Quick question.
Can we
Could
hold
you
this?
adjust that screen so it tilts to people over there?
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Can everybody see
I'm
it?
not too far from the laptop.
Yeah, you're about to take a run.
Is that any better? A little bit?
Yes.
Sorry.
Can you see it clearly, sir?
I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry, Jimmy. Citations. So yeah, resulting citation. It used to be that when cops stopped you, it was because they thought you did something wrong, and there was usually a consequence. Maybe not 100% of the time, but going from 70% down to 3% is shows that they don't care about what they're actually pulling you over for, what they say they're pulling you over for. They're pulling you over because they think you match a description, basically, a description of a black person driving a car. Citation, arrest, and contraband recovery still low in 2023. 4% citation, 2.5% arrest, less than 1% recovery of any contraband, and 0.5% of guns. Most of these gun cases are actually thrown out, or some of them are flooding the courts because it's difficult and expensive to have a concealed carry permit. A lot of people who acquire guns are not engaged in crime. They're worried about their own safety because the police are not answering 911 calls. They're creating the own problem and then not addressing it. Again, black drivers are 6 times more likely to be pulled over across the entire city. In the 14th district, they're actually 7.8 times more likely to be pulled over in the 14th district. And Latino drivers are 2.5 times more likely to be pulled over in the 14th district. Racial disparities in use of force. Over 96 or 97% of use of force were against people of color, and 2% are against white people. So that is, I'm not sure how that math works out, but that's the other category, but that's pretty bizarre. Racial disparities are very bad. This is the 7.8 and the 2.4% stat. This is in the 14th district specifically. So it's worse than the city average. What you find across the whole city, there are more stops on the south and west side in the major black areas. And then in the areas with a lower black population, the disparity of the stops is even higher. Meaning that they're targeting black people, and a police captain told me this, where they feel they don't belong. And that's why this group is called Free to Move, because there's not free movement for black people. Essentially, it's a sundown town in Chicago since 2015. So what do we do about it? There's a 3-pronged policy platform from the Free to Move campaign to reduce racially disparate traffic stops. Number 1, we have to eliminate pretextual stops. That means we know what they're doing, they know what they're doing, it's in the memos. They're not, they don't care about the seatbelt, they care about trying to search your car or whatever, so they can't stop you as an excuse for something else. If you want to search somebody, you better have a reason to search them. 2, limit low-level stops. There are certain things police don't need to be focusing on. If we need to be giving more tickets for things, let's get some other type of ticketing on that, but it's not a good use of their time. They need to be answering 911 calls. Number 3, end suspicionless consent searches. This is why they do these stops, and we need to take away their carrot, their sort of prize. They think that if they come up with a fake reason to stop somebody, that gives them the right to do whatever they want after the fact. We have to take away that reward that they've set up for themselves. So projected outcomes is to improve road safety, have improved trust between community and police, reduce harm between police and the community, reduce racism and the city's legal liability for those things, Reduce entry into the criminal system where there's over 65% recidivism rate, so it doesn't improve our safety at all to arrest people, especially when you're doing it intentionally, not as a response to any actual public danger. They're seeking out arrest. They're not responding to anything that has actually harmed anybody. And they're creating recidivism. So the police are actually causing violence in our community after the fact by throwing people in jail, and then they're coming out without anything else to do. And reduce the police workload and have more efficient criminal investigations. Transform how policing is done. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions on the presentation?
So,
Where can we see this presentation online?
we can share that with you. I know I've got a copy.
Yeah, give me your email or yeah.
I've got his email. I'll send you a copy.
On Impact for Equity's website, so
That's true.
if anyone could go to it at any time.
That is, yes, this was most of, I did not, this was cobbled together, but it was all taken from the Free to Move campaign, put together by Impact for Equity. You can search for Free to Move Chicago.
Free to Move Chicago.
Free to Move Chicago, thank you.
One moment, sir. I've got a gentleman back here.
Yeah, my name is W. Robert Schultz III, and I'm on the steering committee of the Free to Move Coalition. So I was invited or told about this meeting. So I'm just sitting in. If you have some questions later about what we're doing and why we're doing it, I'll be free to talk to you after.
Oh, and also, I believe it's all right to mention the author. Is it all right to mention? Yes, we also have the author of the first slide, Pascal Savino, also in attendance. So if you have questions specifically about that reporting with the 911 calls and OIG, or for Free to Move, we have experts in attendance. Thank you.
You were next, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jimmy Gaither. I work for Londale Christian Legal Center. I'm the director of Restorative Justice Hub. My question is, as the graphics showed that when they stopped doing the jump out and search, it went down, but it picked up on the pretextual stops. So you know this is not a game of checkers. This is a game of chess. So they're already 2 steps ahead. So what's next? What can you possibly think that might be next if they stop the pretextual stops? Because the same thing is going to go on. We have to find out a new way because they caught up with us on this. They did the same thing with Tyree Nichols. We pushed it then. Said if you take your foot off the gas, something is going to happen. And we have put on town hall meetings. We had discussions about the jump out boys, stop and frisk, and the stuff continues to happen. Don't get me wrong, I love my brothers and sisters in the blue uniform. I got family and friends on both sides of the badge. But at the same time, people have to understand lives are being lost senselessly. The officer got killed senselessly. Tyree Nichols got killed ridiculously senseless. Just on a so-called traffic stop. And you made a good point. If I'm not wearing a seatbelt, that's my life. What concern is it of yours to make me wear something that I might have a phobia on that might choke me or something? And then that put me into a panic, or I might have an accident on that, but that's taking it a little further. But whatever I do inside my vehicle is my business. My vehicle is supposed to be able to operate properly with the right registrations and whatever else. Anything I do in my vehicle is my business.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the presentation?
So as Councilor Woodcock knows, I very happily signed the petition on contextual stops, and I think it's an indication of other problems in CPD, and it's great that this is being addressed. I did note that Superintendent Snelling a month ago announced that he had already given direction to CPD to reduce stops, and he claimed, and I haven't seen any data, that stops in 2024 are already trending down 30%. So my question to, there are a lot of knowledgeable people in the room. Is that correct? Have you seen, is there data that we can track this in real time? Or do we know, is there actually a change in CPD policy?
I believe I was briefed on this from the Amy Thompson at Impact for Equity. So I'm paraphrasing her. She said that the 30% reduction was month to month, And so year over year, it's a 4% reduction. So not a significant decrease. So there's always a decrease sort of like in a period of winter, basically was the view.
So is there a data source where we track this just like CompStat?
Well, Free to Move does FOIAs to get it, and then they publish it. I would use their website. Sorry.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I did.
That's the data. I can follow up with that.
As a former director of COPA and investigator there, I can tell you that the data is available. It's available on the Chicago Police Department's website. I don't think it is restricted, but it is, it's not gonna be labeled pretextual stops. The state of Illinois requires that all departments report street stops, which include sidewalks, vehicles, and within that, they have to report, there were like 60 Excel columns of information times more than 200,000 stops a year. A lot of data. And the report tells you whether drugs were confiscated, whether firearms were confiscated, and those drugs. So you can get, I mean, mathematically, although it's a monstrous data analysis task, you can, at the end of the day, determine how many stops are made, how much material is confiscated, what the nature of that material was, and conversely, how many stops were dry. Stop, then there was no arrest made. Oh, they'll tell you was an arrest made or not. So
Could you share that link?
Yes. That's something
I'm no
I'd like.
longer with COPA, so I don't have a lot of.
Mr. Jimenez, if you don't mind, I'd like to put a pin in that and get moving with the questions that we have on the presentation. I'm more than willing to sit down and talk ad nauseum and post the meeting. Ms. Heyman, you had a question?
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I'd like to have Commander Linus come and join one of our meetings so that she can provide that kind of information to us. We've been asking for that for months. And we were told recently by a meeting or two ago by you that she couldn't come on weekends. And we still haven't had her come to the meeting. I'm glad you're here. But we really would like to have Commander Linus here to answer some of these questions.
Well, and that brings up a good point. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a little bit of your time here, Councilman Rolikoff, to address that directly. I had a phone call with Commander Linus just over a week ago, and we were talking about the obligations she has going on this weekend. For those of you unaware, this is Police Memorial Weekend. Officer Ella French, which I'm sure we're all familiar with the name, and used to work under her tutelage. So she takes police memorials very seriously. So she was taken away to Springfield, so she wasn't able to make it. And that's a little indicative to her availability on Saturdays. And to be clear, she didn't say she wasn't available, it's just that Saturdays are difficult for her, but she's gonna make every effort she can to accommodate our request for her to attend. Yeah.
I believe a couple of meetings ago, community members also said that we would be open to being flexible and meeting her on weekday evenings if that was easier. Yeah, so did you let her know about what we discussed in that meeting, and you guys talked about when she would be attending?
To answer that a little bit more directly, and I don't mean to hijack your presentation here, Councilman Rolikoff, and so we haven't had that discussion yet. That's something that we kind of have to plan in two different sides of the table, so to speak. So finding out her availability and then making certain that we're available to all be present for that meeting, because I think that's some of the important things to where more voices are heard and shared through our partnership. Right. Is this in regards to the
To what you said.
presentation or about Commander
I
Linus?
think, can we get Marla, sorry.
Sure, go for
Yeah,
it.
I want to make certain that we're addressing the
Um,
presentation.
I'll try to make this brief. So I think that the pretextual stops are a great concern citywide. It is clearly systemic. My question was going to be, when Councilor Orlikoff spoke with the commander, did you say, about the stops in the 14th, what is being done there, but actually, even more importantly, is this issue of the commander meeting or not meeting. I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but I was at the meeting, I guess that was 2 meetings ago, where we said, hey, we want to be flexible. It just feels like, what's the word? Like obstacles are being thrown up, because in the beginning, when the district council system started, you wanted the commander to come, and we wanted to wait until we were ready and felt like we were in a good place to do it. Now we want it, and we can't have a conversation for 2 months. That's just kind of hard to fathom.
Was that?
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are our elected officials, and as neighbors in this district, we don't want excuses for why the commander won't meet. We want the commander to be here, and we want you to do that, to make that happen. And your availability doesn't matter to us. We need her in there.
Is there another? Yes, hi.
Yeah, unfortunately I gotta leave right away, but I did want to answer your question. The data sets are available. I've met with Impact for Equity multiple times on this issue, and I think that, I don't know if they can publish those data sets, but they do send FOIA requests. I think the dashboard, the CPD dashboard, is very difficult to navigate, online. And so I would, I don't know if the gentleman free to move might have suggestions on this, but to help make sense of the data, I've sat down with Impact for Equity to ask a lot of questions, and I was able to get that meeting with some commissioner. And so I don't know if that applies to the general public or not. I can't speak for Impact for Equity or Free to Move, but the data sets exist. They do have, it's the police's own records, right? It's their records that indicate whether it's a traffic stop. It's their own records that indicate whether it's an investigatory stop. And so it's relying on their own declarations, right? It's not anything that Impact for Equity or Free to Move has generated or created. It's their own records. So these numbers are based upon their own presentations of themselves. Last thing I want to say before I got to run is, the thing that I've been very concerned about pretextual traffic stops, in and of itself, obviously it's unconstitutional, it's harassment. The numbers that Impact for Equity has produced is very troubling. It speaks for itself, in my opinion. It's low-hanging fruit, I think, when it comes to issues that need to be changed. My bigger concern here, and I would really encourage this council, and I will encourage the 10th and 11th district councils, which is where I live, to explore excessive force complaints in tactical units. The jump off boys, as Jimmy referenced, in this situation, there's clearly a correlation between the pretextual stop and the subsequent use of force. And my concern is, and I believe that there's data that we should all be publicly sharing out, that there is reason to believe that these tactical units are the biggest culprits of excessive force. So that's all I want to say. And unfortunately, I got to leave, so sorry.
Thank you very much.
I have two quick responses to overall.
And then we'll let you move on.
Thank you. First, on the subject of the data chasing, we've had the data available fully. So, when the question before was, where's the new data, then, they made this. We can't play a game of waiting and chasing our tail or whatever. If the superintendent is always going to say, oh, I did that already, or I'm going to do that tomorrow. He said that last year, and it did not happen. The problem is still occurring. He's had time to change it. If he had sent a department memo, he could make that public. That's not been the case. Furthermore, after he made similar comments last year, I had the meeting with Commander Linus, and she gave a full-throated, defense of this policy and said it was the only thing they could do to fight crime. And then I asked her, well, has it worked in any case whatsoever? Oh, I can't. No, there's not one case where it's worked. So Snelling saying something in public has no bearing on setting the policy. If Snelling supports ending this practice, then he should write a CPD general directive following the policy that is demanded by the community. There is no reason, if he is in favor, that it should not be a CPD general directive, because this is a systemic problem. If he wants to stop it, there is only one way to do that. There's only one way to stop it, and that is by writing a policy to outlaw this practice within CPD. So next up is, lastly, about the chess, not checkers, and what's next. thank you for that. I don't know what is next, but definitely underlying this is the problem of quotas that we've been dealing with since the police were brought into professionalism. Illegal, unconstitutional quotas. Essentially, police believe that they will be rewarded for pulling in a certain number of callers or whatever numbers are looked for. So they're looking for guns from pretextual traffic stops. That's what police who are doing their job according to their commanders are told to go out there and perform. They're performing by doing as many stops as they can and racially profiling people to try and get gun owners that have not completed a current concealed carry card for Chicago, because it's expensive to maintain your registration, and a lot of poor black people, if their registration on the car is expired, then they think the registration on the gun is probably expired too. Doesn't mean that they're involved in any crimes, that's all it means. So what we have to do to solve that is to get away from quotas. We have to change the FOP contract and make police responsible for the quality of their service and not the quantity of their quotas. That's it.
Can we move?
Yes.
All right, moving into restorative justice. I think that's your topic as well.
Or lastly, there was just, on tactical teams, as was brought up as a separate point, but related, we all already talked about it. Tactical teams are a large issue. It was discussed in the comments and in the presentation, but just want to raise that up, that yes, tactical teams are another thing that need to end. We've been working longer on the pretextual stops, but the tactical teams are not doing the job they were designed to do, as seen, right here, basically. This should be all blue, and it said it's only 10%. And pointing a gun at someone, if a citizen does that, that's an assault with a deadly weapon. That's brandishing and putting someone in fear of their life. All right, next on restorative justice. If you are interested in attending the Avondale Community Court, they meet at 10 a.m. on Fridays, and I believe we have a community member who attended one. If you very briefly would like to say anything at all, or if you would not, that's fine. Do you think it would benefit anybody to attend a court session?
Absolutely.
There we go.
Thank you.
This is a fascinating thing to do. It is indeed a court, and there are lawyers and all the rest that goes along with that. From what I saw, the session that I attended, there were 7 cases were presented to the judge, and I found it very reassuring that the judge, in fact, lives in our neighborhood. She lives a few blocks from here. That's a very good sign. She seemed to have spent time researching the cases, looking at what the case managers and everybody that showed up as an offender had a case manager. My understanding is that the court, at least the Avondale court, is underutilized, and that's the result of decisions that are made by the state's attorney's office in the course of handling these cases. Nothing sinister about it. They just said, we could handle more cases. So if you're able to go, and don't just drop in, it is worth attending.
If you are interested in attending or any other information, please message me, and I would love to facilitate that, or you can speak with Paul after. Yes?
Point of clarification, I think you can also attend via Zoom, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gentlemen here had something to add.
My restorative justice court is correct. If you're not familiar with it, it's about the individuals that live in their community, that commit the crime in the community. It's about a ROHA, a repair harm agreement, where there's a victim and there's a suspect. So if I create the crime and I'm in the same neighborhood with you, I have to agree to have a conversation with you, let you know what's going on. So how we get the clients, we go to 26 in California, we see do they fit, because we randomize to see if they fit the qualifications to be represented. Cliff that was here, we were the first one to start a restorative justice court in North Lawndale. There's only 3, North Lawndale, Inglewood, and Avondale. So it's Thursday, it's Wednesday for Inglewood, Thursday for North Lawndale, Friday for Avondale. It's a phenomenal program. We have 86% of individuals that come through that do not return. Now, the 16% that's still there, they probably came through or refused the program, and wanted to fight their case going through court. But the greatest thing about the restorative court is that the judge, the state attorney, the clerk, the public defender, the case managers is all supporting the individual that's coming through there. And what my job is to make sure they have resources, a one-stop shop with supportive wraparound services that the individual can come through and get the services that they need. It's a phenomenal program. I please go through there like you said and see exactly what's going on. It's community court, and you can always go there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Provides quite a bit of insight on the restorative justice courts programs, and I'd like to talk with that.
Yes, sir.
Moving on. Last topic, set topic for all our meetings, relating to public safety, and also specifically evidence-based solutions and community approaches to safety. I did want to mention that there, as I alluded to earlier, there was a violent incident, a shooting, and a 4-year-old was injured and luckily has survived. I believe is now stable. And I heard this from my window. This was on North Avenue. Suspects have not, to my knowledge, been apprehended for this. In response, the 26th District Public Safety Committee, led by Javier, but organized by Jesse Fuentes, the alderwoman, organized a lot of responses immediately following this, and also in the weeks and months after. So they've walked in the areas where violence has occurred, spoken with the neighbors, connected them with victim resources, as well as violence prevention and intervention resources, and I participated in one of those peace walks, but they've done multiple of those events. It's definitely a sad event. We're glad that it hasn't spiraled into retaliatory, ongoing turfs. So that's a positive update. Do you have anything you'd like to say about any violent incidents or crimes that we've experienced this month?
No, I have nothing prepared for that.
Okay. I have flyers in the front for an event coming up, which is organized also by the 25th Police District, Hermosa, our neighbors to the west, West Humboldt Park. So from Humboldt Park to West Humboldt Park, this is a bike ride at 9 a.m. on May 18th, and with a free lunch. When we come, we're going to start and end in Humboldt Park, go up Sacramento, and then over to like Costner, and then take the 606 back, and then have a nice little party at the boathouse. So check it out. Come to the boathouse 9 a.m. and back there at 11 a.m.
What day of the week is that?
Saturday, May 18th. There should be flyers on the table as well. I think I'm good.
Okay. One item that I added to the agenda, annual objectives. I think you've made it very clear, Councilman Wilcox, that your primary focus is going to be pretextual stops, and anything I can afford you to make that as fruitful as ever, I'm here for you. A couple of items that I have. By the way, I'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge this. Happy anniversary. We were sworn in. We were sworn in on May 2nd last year.
Happy anniversary.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I attended a group meeting about public safety. I focused on public safety. And I also mentioned Miss Washington from OEMC, the 911 call center, come in and give a presentation in July.
I'm sorry, what was the first thing you said prior to that? Before the OMC?
Her first name?
Miss Washington is what I said?
No, what's that about?
Oh, I attended a meeting from a community that focuses on public safety.
Oh, okay.
And some of the initiatives that they proposed that we take on, I think you were provided a copy of this previously via email.
Okay, right, I understand.
But this kind of one of the items that they mentioned is OEMC prioritization, and I think that having Miss Washington come in July can shed a little light on some of those questions that we have. So I think with that in mind, we're kind of hitting that metric, but I'd also like to make that one of my annual priorities moving forward, is and kind of pulling the lid back a little bit on OEMC, how it operates, how the data points spike. I received tertiary instruction on how it happens, but I'd like to get a little bit more in depth. And let's see, some of the other items that they brought up. The arrest data accuracy. You know, there's a miscommunication, I think, going from the data points to the ComStats, and I don't know what's taking place there, but I'd like to get, pull the lid back a little bit there and see how we can make it a little bit more abundantly clear and up to date in real time if possible. And also cross-district cooperation. If you remember my updates, I mentioned not just the 14th Police District, but also the Area 5 ComStats. So I think that when we work with our municipal colleagues in adjacent areas, we can come up with more combined and reinforce opportunities to do good for our communities. So those are my three main focus for the year. As we move throughout the year, I think we could possibly come up with more, or say, okay, we've kind of hit the metric on that. We could go ahead and take a step back and put our attention and time to something else. So that's my pledge. OEMC, arrest data accuracy, and cross-district cooperation are going to be my three main focus points. Any objection to that?
What was the last one? Arrest data accuracy and?
Cross-district cooperation, working with the Area 5, the other districts in Area 5, which are 16, 17, and 25.
To answer the question, I mean, obviously, I don't object to your priorities, and I don't think that I object to them, but I mean,
if you have priorities that you'd like to add on your own plate as well.
Well, you said they were. Is there a specific planned use, I guess, or for what we're agreeing to? In this, I mean, you're telling me what your priorities are.
Well, right. Those are the things I'm gonna put a lot of time and attention and focus on.
Sure.
You know, the OEMC, I think we've already kind of taken the first step to making that take place. Pull the lid back a little bit and see how we can.
So I guess, okay, one specific question. I believe staff had mentioned setting up an additional website with further information. I'm wondering, I mean, is any of this supposed to be copy or something else? I mean, I don't object to your plans as you described them.
What staff do you refer to?
No? I thought you said there was a website.
The website is coming, but
That you wanted us to put a vision statement on.
We haven't collaborated
So,
on this.
right, so this is not the vision statement?
No.
Okay.
These are just like, we just celebrated our anniversary.
Yes.
I think that every year we need to sit there and have what our primary focus individually is going to be, and those are my three main focuses.
Thank you for laying that out. Slightly, no objection, slightly, but I think a little bit related. You said a number of these related to the public safety meeting, and I heard a comment asking for a response to reports made by the public safety meeting. I'm wondering if there are additional items to be covered if you were going to add those to the agenda for June?
Forthcoming, that information's forthcoming.
Okay, gotcha, because I think it would be easier for you to add those than for me to add them.
No. Basically, it'll probably be wrapped up in my council updates.
Okay.
So, unless it warrants a more fettered out discussion, i.e. the OEMC presentation in July, that would fall into discussion.
No objections to you. Rather than stumble through coming up with a list, yes, the traffic stops are definitely a top priority. You know, that won't be the only thing that I do, but I'm not going to waste our time here blabbering on.
Yeah,
not that you were doing that. I'm not going to impromptu.
Right.
Sorry.
No. I'm
not going to. Yeah.
I'm not trying to sandbag you here. Just the door's open, and I think a lot of people.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Sorry.
But Godspeed.
I worded that poorly.
Godspeed with the pretextual traffic stop uphill battle as
Thank
you know it is. Okay.
Let me move to votes. So I don't believe that we're actually going to vote on anything necessarily, but I think it's important to raise the topics. Or we might vote on the first one. Ashley is not here to vote. I believe that she has indicated support for this event. Yes, I knew that she supported the event before putting, you know, like our logo on it, I think. So anyway, we promised a free lunch with this event. We were hoping that also was going to be grilling. But they have not yet confirmed that. We're maybe going to seek some donations, which we've done in the past. But I am also hoping to have the 14th District Council authorize up to $100 for ingredients if we have to pay for hot dogs or something to grill. And yeah, just if necessary, up to $100 for ingredients for food to serve the free lunch as advertised. That's something that I'm seeking. Both of the votes today, I don't have anything written out. We're waiting to get an official email from our executive director about budget that we have access to. I was told informally that we have at roughly $4,000. We've been waiting for some time to sort of understand how we could use some of our budget. And it's just that there are some events that are coming up quickly. So it's as the outreach coordinator, I'm concerned with using our money effectively and getting things done. Yeah, I guess two questions, or are you willing to endorse this event, or otherwise also the financial aspect of up to $100?
Well, here's the question I have about
Of course.
about the budget, because this is not our money. This is the money of the taxpayer. So I have to imagine that there's a pretty arduous request process that goes along with it, where it's not just like, here's the checkbook, go ahead and write them out. So I imagine that there's got to be some arduous process where we have to provide it with so much time to where it can be denied or approved, and so on and so forth, and then you wait so many days and then the check materializes. So that's where the fog. I need to.
Can I tell you that Adam said there's a 3-step process. One is, minimum of 2 counselors must email, Adam saying that they authorize this. And then you also have to include full description of it. He will verify that it's something that they're allowed to purchase. We're not allowed to purchase things for ourselves, including meals for ourselves. We can only purchase meals for the community. And third, the payment information. So we are not going to issue checks.
Money, right.
We're not going to be given checks, right?
Right, and I think those are great wickets to run through from a custodian standpoint of people's money. I think.
I'll gladly donate the money to cover it. I don't want us to get caught up in bureaucracy, unnecessary bureaucracy. I'll happily donate the $100.
Wow. Thank you, Alex. Is it, all right, do you have any questions about this event, or we only have 2 of us here, but do you feel it's appropriate to have a vote to endorse it, or do you think that doesn't make sense?
I have no objection. We can go ahead and approve it by unanimous consent.
May I ask a question about that?
Yes.
How does that bike ride relate to CCPSA?
Largely through space activation. So people sometimes feel that criminals or violence has taken over the streets, and the only remedy for that is to have community take over the streets. So we're connecting neighbors and building connections through community members is one of the best ways to improve safety. So we're having neighbors meet each other. There will be different resources also at the boathouse, resources for the community. But creating positive space activation deters negative effects in the same space.
That actually opens up a lot of questions for me as well on my end, and I'm not pushing back my.
Well, I mean, so also.
How does one get involved with participating? Is I think my number 1 question.
Oh, you mean just show up? Please, yeah, show up.
No, I mean, I don't have a bicycle.
We're hopeful. Okay, it's possible that there might be a few bikes for free for rent for free for the event, but if we don't be upset at me.
Okay, well, and the other question that I have, because we are designed to bridge the gap.
You can come at 11 for the event and talk to everybody there. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So we're here to bridge the divide between the community and the police.
Sure.
Are we going to extend an invitation for police bicyclists to be involved as well, so that they can show some of that solidarity and partnership? I think that's where you.
That's a fair question.
A lot of full-throated support. So.
I do not. I do not know fully. So I would have to ask Saul Ariano, the 25th District Councilor, to confirm. I don't believe, or to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any specific police officer that I know is going to be attending. There, I would not be surprised, but I do not know.
Okay. Well, with your permission, can I extend that invitation to the police at the 14th Police District? You know, I mean, just
to
say, hey,
attend?
look, you're not expected to, but you're more than happy, if you're inclined, we'd love for you to attend.
I mean, all community, as with our meetings, all community members are certainly able to attend, of course.
Like I said, I endorse it either way, but I think that if we are really doing what we're here to do, I think bridging that divide, like I said.
How many of them live in the 14?
So, well, I will just say, also is the main violence prevention group that's holding this event. They're having their largest event the following week. On the 25th is their 29th Walk for Peace. I should have mentioned that also. But on the 25th is their annual Walk for Peace. The mayor is going to be there. Many people will be in attendance. But in general, also, you know, they occasionally have to, they work in the same space with police sometimes, but some of their work requires a distance from police when they are speaking with people who might be afraid of retaliation or might be afraid of what police would, you know, retaliation from other, maybe from a gang member or other things as well. So, but what also does is try to meet people where they are in street life and try to pull them out of that. So that sometimes requires not having a police presence. However, for this event, this is a family-friendly event for everybody. So anybody from the community can attend.
Okay, thank you, that kind of clarifies it. I have no objection, you guys pass it like unanimous consent?
Great.
So it be.
Thank you. There's a handout if you want.
Sorry.
So just on the subject of budgeting then, since you did raise the topic of annual plans, I'm not clear whether it's on a fiscal year that ends in October or a
We're not clear
calendar
either.
But, so could I make the request that at the next meeting, you come back to us with an overall plan for your budget and allocation? For example, increasing attendance at this event, possibly paying an honorarium for a speaker to come to cover the travel expenses, or whatever other broad categories, not necessarily every individual event, but whatever the broad categories are that you want to spend the taxpayers' money on, as well as what your annual objectives would be that don't cost anything. So the year's almost half over, but I think that would be helpful for everybody to understand what is this district council actually seeking to accomplish? Because so far, not sure.
Pointed in different directions. I completely understand the sentiment, and I can't agree with you more. I think that you know, and there's still a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of fog and clutter to cut through to get full understanding of what this budget's all about, and what we can and can't use it for, and that sort of thing. And I want to, before a single dime is spent, I want to make certain that everyone in the room is fully aware of how that works.
You are spending the 100 now, right?
No.
Oh, I thought.
No, that was a donation.
Oh. Okay, so that's not the vote.
Right.
So, I mean, continuing the discussion on the budget, I'm sure that we are not going to have a vote on this also because Councilor Vargas is not here, and it's a larger topic, but a major expense that I am seeking. Oh, sorry about that.
I just want to add that I have no problem with public transparency around how money is spent and that it is tax dollars. I just also don't want to see this as being a barrier to having activities through this council process. $4,000 is like a drop in the bucket of a budget. The police force is 40% of the Chicago budget, and so when we put that in perspective, when we break that down by district and what it costs to have a full force proactively, as well as for all of the payouts for the misconducts and hundreds of millions of dollars, let's not like have this be, you know, kicking dust up so that we can't have something and have hot dogs. It's just, I feel kind of like I'm spending my Saturday to argue whether we're gonna have a transparent budget to spend $100 for hopefully what will be a fun, safe, proactive safety event in the neighborhood, which in my work also, there's a long history of having proactive safety events that involve community members forms out in the street to have other forms. We need all mechanisms
You're absolutely
to
right.
address public safety.
You're absolutely right, and I couldn't agree with you more as well. I'm not trying to create a barrier, I'm trying to create a little bit more visibility before we commit money that, you know, no matter what the cost is. I think that if I wasn't diligently watching how the money's spent, I'd be doing a disservice to you as well. That's my approach to it. I have no problem, as a matter of fact, until Ms. Schmidt had spoken up, I was gonna say, hey, look, I think I know a venue to which could donate $100 to your effort, exterior of this, but, you know, that's neither here nor there now. So, I'm sorry, Councilor Royal, please continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is all, basically, just the last point is just this broader budget topic. So this is all on topic. The last point that I had was about paying for space at the Logan Square Farmers Market. I know that, yeah, I'm not gonna call that vote today. I had found out that we can get a table there once for free as the community, but to be there any more than a single week requires registration, which is $325 per week now. I think it was $300 for early registration. So that's the main thing that I am seeking funding for in terms of outreach. The Logan Square Farmers Market is the largest event in the district. It's huge, and I've previously gotten over 2,000 petition signatures there and over a dozen volunteers. So I've gotten over 200 signatures per hour there before. So it's, yeah, I think that would be a good use of our funds. We're in a position where we didn't have any answers on the budget for the entire first year, and we're still waiting on the official wording or whatever, but from our executive director, we can release funds just from 2 people emailing him, you know, and just a description of it. That's all it takes. It does not require a vote in public. I do think it would make sense to discuss the budget overall, so that we don't run into any issues, but it does not need to stop us from anything that should be acted on in a timely manner. So I also, I also hope that we can have a discussion about what we want in the budget at our next meeting.
So we're gonna table the votes to June? Is that?
Yes, thank you.
No objections, we'll go ahead and pass that with unanimous consent to table the votes until June. Anything else that we have? I think that just about covers everything we have.
Next meeting?
Next meeting, that is a good one. That is gonna be at the Fullerton, Milwaukee, Bucktown Wicker Park. So just to be clear, I think I kind of got things a little confused when I mentioned it last time, so just for the record. Saturday, June 1, 2024 is our next meeting, which is going to be at the Bucktown Wicker Park Library, which is located at 1701 North Milwaukee Avenue, of course at 1 p.m. Where we have Ms. Washington from OEMC attending with a presentation in hand, is going to be Saturday, July 6th at 1 p.m. at Logan Square Library at 3030 West Fullerton. So, to be clear, demystifying it. Next meeting, Saturday, June 1 p.m., 1701 North Milwaukee, also known as the Bucktown Wicker Park Library. All right?
Thank you. If anybody hasn't, sorry.
Okay.
We talked a lot about pretextual traffic stops. If you have yet to sign the petition calling for the CCPSA to hold a hearing, please sign the petition so the CCPSA has that hearing. Thank you.
All right. With no objections, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting by unanimous consent. Time is now 2:35. I didn't want to exacerbate the
Hello, sir. How are you?
Unfortunately, this is a game. I understand that surgeons who are basically